Think we are good to go. Yes, over to you, Jasmin.
Okay, perfect. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited. I do have this little Black Rat book out. It actually published officially on Friday. So it is brand new, hot off the press. I think it's, how long can I say that? I'm not quite sure, but probably for the
For a
next
little while longer, for sure. At least for half an hour.
Exactly. At least for the half hour here. I have put together just some visual background, basically, in slide form, just to take you along for the ride. Let me share that with you right now and put it in slideshow mode, and then I'll walk you through that. Is that coming through all right?
Yes, it's looking good. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So why are we here today? I wrote a book, and it's called If There Is a Will, There Is a Way. Talking title, if you want to think about it that way. And it's really written for both the dreamers and the doers equally. Have you ever felt like you're stuck between your big dream or one of your big dreams and the everyday grind that we're all in? That's exactly the place that this book is coming from. Right. And if you were to ask me, why this book and why now? The short answer is, you can see it here. Can we see a whale fly and actually pull that little plane underneath it? It seems like it's getting increasingly out of fashion to dream big, right? The world is a very angry and very troublesome place, and that makes a lot of people even more afraid than ever to pursue their big dreams. Some people have no idea how to dream big, right? It's because you get so busy and so hung up on all the things in your life that are seemingly spiraling out of control that you don't allow yourself to set all of that aside and really think about, well, what about me? Right? Even saying that feels selfish in a sense, but what about me? Where do I want to go and what actually makes me happy? And that is only the first step, right? Because a dream without a plan is nothing. And that sounds harsh, but it's true. So all the New Year's resolutions are a great example, right? You say that you want something, usually a bikini figure or, I don't know, to be able to do 50 chin-ups by March. And then
run an ultra marathon.
Sorry?
Run an ultra marathon.
Or, right.
Like you did.
That's we're all good at saying that we want something. But doing what you need to do in order to get that thing done is a different kind of story. And that's exactly what that book's about. And yes, I did just run an ultra marathon, just to your point. Because it's so much fun. It's so rewarding to set a big, hairy, audacious goal and then actually go achieve it. Not just dream about it, not just talk about it, but actually take all of those steps needed to get you there. And what I would love to do, so you get a sense of for what's in it for you, quite literally, is walk you through 3 ideas that are part of the book, right? And there's plenty more, but I've picked 3 that I think probably resonate with this group. And you tell me if I chose the right ones or if you'd like to see something else. So idea number 1 is progress demands discomfort. What does that mean? It means that nothing excellent, nothing truly exciting, nothing really special ever happens inside your comfort zone. Dreams don't happen inside your comfort zone. Ultra marathons are way out of your comfort zone.
I did not mean to kind of open a can of worms right there.
But
Open the stars.
it's very fitting, right? It really is a great example, because we need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and I think that's increasingly uncommon, right? And that's a shame, because again, nothing exciting, nothing really life-changing, nothing really exceptional happens inside your comfort zone. So start thinking about, what does that look like for me? What is my, it really helps just starting to assess, what is my comfort zone, and how do I react when I'm forced to leave that? Do I clam up? Do I get nervous? Do I have hot flashes? What is it, right? And that can be physical, but can also be a mental reaction to that. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
I'm glad. Let's jump to the second idea then, and that is micro wins build massive momentum. What is a micro win? I think we're all very good at under celebrating. Right? We get something done, and instead of stopping and recognizing that we've just done something seemingly small in the moment, but it's a little bit like your interest, right? Compound interest is a thing. Micro wins are basically the same thing, like interest rates. So tiny win builds on tiny win, builds on tiny win, builds on tiny win, actually turns into this massive snowball of tiny little wins that gets you where you're wanting to go. Again, if we want to tie that back to the running example, a micro win is actually getting that run in. And it doesn't matter how small it is. Maybe the micro win is even microer, and it is in you actually put out your running clothes the night before, so you don't have to think about it next morning, and it's very easy. You've just very much lowered the barrier of entry to actually get that run in. And maybe the micro win is not running 5 times a week, but running 2 times a week, because you had a break in running and you just want to get back into the rhythm. And now for many people, it's very easy to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, oh, if I don't run every day, I might as well not run at all. And I think that's where we've gotten something wrong, right? Because it's the wins, the micro wins eventually add up like compound interest over time and will get you where you want to go. So if you can find a way with the tools in the book to celebrate those micro wins, or even recognize them for what they are, a micro win, then that's a huge progress right there. Anybody have an example for a micro win for themselves?
Paul, I think you can share both from the world of sports or work. Your pick.
I relate a lot to what you're saying, Jasmin, because sometimes you don't feel great that day. Sometimes you don't feel necessarily motivated, but if that outfit is out the night before and you look at it and you walk past it, it's a lot easier to get started. So I'm a big believer in the micro wins as well. And a good example is, you're talking about sports or physical activity, is not trying to compete or compare yourself to others, but compare yourself to yourself. So yesterday, whatever, I lifted 50 pounds, to tomorrow I lift 55, and that's a micro win.
Absolutely. Love that you're saying that, Paul. And to tie it back into business as well, and that's, I think, the beauty of the book, but also the kinds of tools and the kinds of ideas that I'm sharing there is all of these lessons or ideas are applicable equally to sports, to business, and to your personal life, right? Because all three follow the same basic rules. Now, if you want to think about it from a business perspective, what's a micro win in business? It can be showing up to that presentation that scares you, right? It can be rehearsing that presentation because you know that is going to make it easier for you. It can be saying no to an invite to a meeting invite that you got. It can really be those tiny things that ultimately add up, again, like compound interest, to something that makes you a better human in the workplace, in your sports activities, or in life. And if you want to think about it from a personal life perspective, what's a micro win? It's, if you're into wine, maybe it's not drinking a glass of wine every night. Maybe it is, swapping that for something that is healthier. Or if you're a person that is super structured, maybe it's, starting to have a morning that is not so structured, or the other way around. Maybe it is saying yes when your spouse asks you to do something that is not your favorite activity, or equally, maybe it's saying no to your sibling when they ask something of you that you shouldn't be doing, because quite frankly, sometimes siblings have a way of doing that. So it's in those little interactions and little things where you can really build massive momentum in reaching that goal once you've identified what that is. And let's jump into the final idea for here and today, because we already touched on motivation, and that's very fitting, because motivation sometimes feels like that almost extinct animal that everybody else has, but we don't have it. And that's not true. And that led to this idea that is clarity beats motivation every time. Discipline is a much stronger factor in predicting your success at any given goal/dream than motivation. We all hunt motivation, and we marvel at people that are motivated all the time. We ask them, how do you find the motivation to get up in the morning, to be creative, to do this and that? And the honest answer to motivation is not permanent for nobody. And it's impossible to harness into something that is predictable. Yes, motivation is a muscle that grows stronger the more you use it, but if you don't put in the right scaffolding and the right structures, it's not going to carry you all the way from where you are today to where you're wanting to go. Clarity does that for you in conjunction with discipline. So finding your goal, finding the one thing that is your first priority at this moment in time in any given aspect of your life can be the first step in creating that scaffolding that allows you to not need to rely on motivation, but to actually have a very clear-cut plan with micro win steps that gets you to where you're wanting to go. And in hindsight, you'll look back on it and you'll go, yeah, it was the steady chipping away at the block of wood. It's never, it's never a one-time thing that you do that creates that success for you. Showing up is so much more important than any of those lighthouse moments, like tentpole announcement things. The consistency is really what will get you where you're wanting to go. And with that, what awaits you? I mean, really, and see, funny, we teed that up really well. Book is out now. You can grab your copy anywhere books are being sold. So, you can either check out your favorite bookstore, local bookstore, online bookstore, really anywhere, and you'll find it. it led me latest adventure to running an ultra marathon in South Africa, which was a whole lot of fun. Very, very incredible experience. And it is that consistency and that being strong even when you feel weak, showing up, especially when the going gets tough, because everybody can show up when the sun's out and the weather is nice and everything is going right. Same in your job. It's very easy to coast along and think you're having a good time while there is no headwind, while everybody's doing their job, while you're good at what you do. When push comes to shove is when really shows what you're capable of. And that can be both in a good and in a bad direction. So the book is really here to try and help you how to overcome obstacles, how to leave the doubt behind, because we all doubt ourselves. We just don't talk about it. There is a day and a time where you sit on your couch or wherever it is, wherever you are, and you go, I'm not really sure if I can do that. I'm not sure if I can take that promotion. I'm not sure if I can run that marathon. I'm not sure if I want to marry that person. Big examples, but you get the idea of where we're heading. And that is okay. The important thing is that you take yourself seriously and that you sit with that doubt and turn it into something useful for yourself. And then there is the excuses bit, right? We all have excuses for the things that we are not quite as passionate about as we thought we should be. I share an example in the book about, the famous, you've all heard it, you all know it, water drinking goal. Oh, you should drink at least, fill in the blank, a gallon of water every day because it's good for you. And you try and you never quite make it because it's actually not important enough. It's an artificial goal, really, an external facing goal. Whereas what we're looking for, what the book is trying to do with you together, is figure out what is actually important to you, like really important to you. And those are the things that we want to go after, right? So if you're curious now, these are multiple ways you can get your copy. If you want to grab your smartphone and scan one of these now, the black one is straight to the publisher, it's Austin McCauley. And the red one is my own website that also links back to the publisher, but that has a bit more information on the book, on myself. So any which way you decide to go is a fantastic way to go. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you very much, Jasmin. I really appreciate this mixture of sports metaphors that I could relate to, private life metaphors that I could relate to, and certainly also a couple of work in there. Being comfortable with being uncomfortable, this notion of under-celebrating, which is, I think, stronger in some cultures. I think Denmark is really good at under-celebrating. And then your point also on discipline being a strong factor, this day-to-day progress. So a lot of good things here. Would you mind showing the book perhaps one more time? If you stop sharing the
I was going to say, let me.
screen, then I think we can see a little bit more of, perhaps just give us, if you can, I know it's one up from radio, but give us a sense of what's in the book, table of contents. Just tell us a little bit more about the actual book. How is it structured?
Yeah, absolutely. And it really is meant as a toolkit. So it takes you from start to finish. It starts with actually how, dreaming big. What does that mean? Because I really feel like there's, what people ask me is, Jasmin, how do you do these things? And I'm like, what do you mean? And the answer is, well, you're doing all these bold and you need to be so, I'm not as bold as you, I'm not as brave as you. And I'm always shocked because I think I'm not any more special than anybody else. I've just found a way to choose one thing and then go after it with everything that I have in a structured way. And I think I've learned that that's where people usually fall off the bandwagon. One, they don't dream big enough. They don't know what, they don't trust themselves. They doubt themselves. They're like, I'm, yes, somebody else is doing this ultra thing, or somebody is the VP of whatever fill in the blank department that you work at. And I'm like, that's not for me. I'm, I don't think I could do that. I don't think I'm made for that. And that makes me very sad, because I think many people don't even get close to what you would call their potential, because they're either too busy, which is sad, or they're too insecure, which is even sadder. So that's where the book starts. Like, how do we dream bigger? How do we learn to dream big again? And what is the right dream for you to follow? Because it's not your New Year's resolutions, which is some wacko thing that society tells you you should or should not be doing. That is not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is, what do you deep inside actually aspire to be or aspire to do? And they're interrelated. Spoiler alert.
Right.
Right. And that's really where it starts. And then it takes you through, okay, how do you actually pin down that dream? There's a great 10-step exercise that you can follow to really, dig deeper inside and figure out what it is that makes you jive. And then the book takes you through how to actually get there. So how do you really start small? How do you create habits that help you get to where you're wanting to go? And then we're talking about consistency. The chapter I love also is about making time, because people always ask me, oh, when you find time to do that? I don't. Nobody finds time. You either make time for the things that are important to you, or you don't. And my day also has no more than 24 hours, like anybody else's. Nobody's day has more than 24 hours. But that's the perception, right? People say, oh, you must have more time. How do you find? No, I don't find the time. I make the time for the things that are important. And you should too.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I feel like this has been a good Q&A between the two of us. I want to make sure that other people have time, while some perhaps use the Google function of raising hand. I just want to say also congratulations, Jasmin. I can't wait to get my hands on the copy. My local bookshop, it's been ordered, but it does take a little bit of time. If you
That is true.
want to support Amazon, it's got to wait a little bit longer. But congratulations on the book. I can't wait to get my copy on it, and hopefully you can sign it when we meet in person in 2 weeks. But let's go back to Paul.
Yeah, just a question, because what inspired you to actually start to write your book? Was there a moment in time where you said, you know what, I need to share this?
Mm-hmm. Great question. Thank you, Paul. And you know what? It wasn't me. That's probably no surprise.
Oh.
I sat on a friend's balcony with her. She's a great editor. And we were preparing a lunch talk for a company that had asked me to speak on sports, just purely sports, motivation, basically. And we were, discussing that talk track, and she looked at me and she's like, Jasmin, I know you, and there is so much more in this than just sports. I know you in a work life. I know you in personal life. I know that all of this applies to all of these things. Why don't you write a book about it? Literally, those were her words. And I sat on her balcony and I was like,
With friends like that, huh?
you know what? And I said, yeah, actually I should. Because it's funny, because we looked at each other and I don't think either of us were sure if the other was serious. It was one of those funny situations where in hindsight, you're like, oh yeah, that was the start of it. And then it could have gone off the rails at 15 other junctions, right? Because writing a book is a very tedious process, I will say that. But that was how it started. Somebody saw the potential. I saw it once she pointed it out, and then again, we just got to work and created a structure, and that really is how we got there. And then finding a publisher was the actual hard thing. So the writing, if people say, oh, what was the hardest thing about writing the book? No, writing the book was hard, yes. Finding a publisher is the hardest thing on the planet. I will say.
All right, let's just pause that right there. That's for a whole other members call, I think. But let's go to Roskilde, Michael.
Yes. Well, thank you. As one in education, I'm very much interested in the distinction you have between motivation and discipline, because we have a lot of students that need motivation or discipline. That is actually the thing that I was. How do you move people from thinking it is motivation to thinking it is also discipline?
Great question.
Thank you, Michael.
And I think it is discipline before motivation. Motivation is fleeting, and you'll never pin it down. So if you rely on motivation to get something done, that just doesn't happen. But it's a very convenient excuse to say, oh yeah, I don't feel like it. I don't, and that's I think the best way to teach that is with the micro wins, right? Put in very small things that actually feel good, because I mean the human brain is wired on chemicals, and if you create good experiences, even if they're small, I think that's the only way to teach, by doing small steps and then creating a good experience. And then that gets people hooked for more, right? And then they stop asking about this motivation thing. But if showing up 5 times out of 5 comes with a reward, maybe that is the motivation. You're teaching discipline, but you're putting a different label on.
Yeah. But I think the main issue is actually this is institutionalized. Motivation is the thing that the institution is trying to build. And I think I've always found it a bit challenging that I was the person who has to be building motivation. I'm not a coach.
No, you know what? There's a great quote in the business world that says, you cannot motivate people. Either people show up motivated to do the job, you can teach them the skills, but you can never turn somebody in that is not motivated into somehow being motivated. In the workplace, it's a very known thing, right? But I agree with you. It's very, very difficult in that sense, because it's been.
I feel like this kind of connects with the book title.
Yeah, sure.
It does.
If there's a will, there's a way. If there's no will, there's an excuse. That is the extra large version, right?
Oh, watch for the second edition coming, perhaps.
Yeah, I think I'll build the addendum.
That's amazing. Thank you very much, Jasmin. Thank you, everybody who joined. That was a really fascinating conversation. Once again, my paper here is but I can't wait to get my copy of the book. Congratulations once again, Jasmin. Please do share the slides, and I'll make them available. And we'll see each other soon. Thank you.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Thanks. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.